I never thought I'd find myself back here. Not after everything that happened. Charleston, the place where it all started. The city that holds every mistake I've ever made, where the ghosts of my past still linger like a bad odor, the scent of betrayal, the ache of my broken marriage, the hollow silence that now echoes in the space where my son Jared used to be. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening from. I stepped out of the car, the southern heat pressing against me like an old friend I never asked for. The humidity clung to my clothes, smothering me in the thick air as if the city itself were reluctant to let me go. The crumbling bricks of the house stood ahead, every imperfection on its surface mirroring the cracks in my life. I left this place 18 months ago, after the divorce was final. I thought I could outrun the hurt, thought that the CIA would be my escape, my chance at forgetting, but I was wrong. I wasn't here for any noble reason. Not for some family reunion or to put things right. I was here because Camille had called. Reid. It sets, Jared. Something sets wrong. Her voice cracked, desperate, pleading. She didn't even say the words, just begged me to come. I had to, but I didn't believe her. Demonic possession? Please. I'd seen enough in my days as a CIA operative to know this was probably just another one of Camille's manipulations. She'd pulled this stunt before, used Jared like a pawn to get my attention, to get my money. And I wasn't about to fall for it again. Still, when I walked into that house, I saw something that stopped me cold. Camille's face, pale, worn, wasn't the face of someone desperate for help. It was the face of someone who had already given up. And Jared, gone was the energetic, defiant teenager I once knew. His body was there, but his soul seemed absent. His eyes were wide, unfocused, twitching uncontrollably. There was no spark left, just an emptiness that chilled me to the bone. "Dad, help me," he whispered, barely able to speak. I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. But then I saw it. On the kitchen table, half buried beneath a stack of papers, was a crumpled receipt, $2,800, for an exorcism paid to some so-called healer. I couldn't believe it. $2,800. That was too much money to be spent on a fake. Too much to just ignore. This wasn't just about Jared. This was about something much bigger. I knew Camille. I knew how she operated. This was her game, just another way to manipulate me, to get me involved. And as I stared at that receipt, a thought gripped me. Was Jared really sick? Or had we all fallen into a lie so deep that I couldn't even see it? I walked out of the kitchen, my mind spinning. I was no fool. This wasn't some random con, it was bigger, and I would find out how far it went. But then, as I headed out the door, I caught a glance of the old family photo on the wall. It was of Jared, me, and Camille. The last time I saw my son smile without any hint of fear or pain. How did we go from that to this? I wasn't just here for Camille anymore. I was here for Jared. I paused by the front door, looking back at the house. Was it too late to save him? Or had the damage already been done? Too many lies, too many years lost. I couldn't say. What I did know was this. I had to do something. I had to find the truth. No matter what it took. The next few days were going to be hell. I could already feel it in my bones. But if there was one thing I learned in my years of covert ops, it was this: no one gets away with manipulation, not on my watch. The only thing left to do now was dig deep. And when I did, I would uncover the truth. No matter how dark it was, I thought I could keep my cool. I really did. But as the days dragged on, the questions kept piling up. Jared's behavior wasn't just strange, it was disturbing. There were moments when I'd catch him staring off into space, like he was seeing something that wasn't there. Other times he'd lash out without warning, his words slurred, his body trembling with tension. Camille kept insisting that he was possessed. The healer said the evil spirit is strong, she'd say, her voice trembling with something that could have been fear or could have been guilt. I didn't know what to believe. I wasn't exactly new to deception. My whole career was built on unmasking the truth in the most dangerous places, and yet here I was facing the one thing I could never quite figure out: my own son. That night, after Camille had gone to bed, I sat in the dim light of the living room, staring at the file on the table in front of me. It was thick, too thick, a mountain of paperwork that included bills, receipts, and what appeared to be communications from the so-called healer. The man's name was Father Dominic. He'd been contacted by Camille more than a dozen times, and every payment was increasing. The first one had been $1,200 for a spiritual cleansing. The last one, $2,800 for something he called an urgent exorcism. The more I read, the less sense it made. If Jared were truly possessed, why wasn't he getting better? Why were we throwing more money into this scam, hoping for a miracle, and why had Camille fallen for it? I needed answers. I wasn't the man I used to be, the hardened CIA operative who could get in and out of any situation with his hands tied behind his back. No, now I was just a father, a broken one, desperate. I picked up my phone, dialing a number I hadn't dialed in years. Miller, it says Reid, I need a favor. Miller was an old friend, someone I trusted from my CIA days. We hadn't spoken since I left the agency, but I knew if there was anyone who could help me now, it was him. What's going on, Reid? Miller's voice crackled over the line. I need you to get me something. Something that can make Jared tell the truth. Miller hesitated. You know what that means. Are you sure about this? I said sure. He sips not getting any better, and if this is all just a scam, I need to know. I need to hear it from him. All right, I'll get it to you. But be careful. The next day, Miller's package arrived. Inside was a small vial, nothing fancy, just an unmarked bottle. It contained a truth serum, a relic from my past. It was a dangerous thing, using it on someone you care about, but at that point, I had no other choice. I'd seen the effects of the serum before in interrogation rooms, how it would break the most hardened individuals, making them spill their deepest secrets. But would it work on my son? I couldn't risk Jared being lost in some fog of half-truths and twisted beliefs. That night, after Camille had gone to bed, I sat in front of Jared, the vial resting in my palm. He sat across from me, staring at the ground, the unease radiating from him like a tangible force. Jared, I said, my voice softer than I intended. I need to know what sip's going on, the truth. His eyes flickered to mine, but he didn't speak. There was no defiance, no anger, just silence. Jared. I know you're scared, I said, my heart aching, but this isn't something's gonna help. We need to figure out what something's really going on, and I need you to trust me. I held out the vial. This one set hurt. Just tell me the truth. Jared looked at the vial for a long moment before he nodded. I could see the hesitation in his eyes, the fear of what this would mean. But he didn't fight it, not this time. I uncapped the bottle, and with shaking hands dripped a few drops into his water. The silence that followed felt like 1,000 years. Slowly, Jared's eyes started to lose focus. The tension that had held him so tightly finally began to unravel. I watched as he sank into his chair, his shoulders relaxing for the first time in weeks. Then he spoke, and what came out of his mouth made my blood run cold. It was all fake. The possession, the healer, it was all a lie. Stepdad and Camille, they made me do it. For the money, for the inheritance. I felt my stomach churn, my hands trembling as the weight of his confession crashed into me. They wanted the family estate, Jared continued, his voice growing weaker. I was just a pawn. They were going to use me to get everything. The words hit harder than I could have prepared for. My son, my flesh and blood, had been manipulated, coerced, used as nothing more than a tool in a game that I should have been the first to protect him from. I looked at him, the truth finally in the open, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of rage mixed with guilt. Had I failed him? Was it too late to fix this? But then I realized something. I still had a chance. The truth was out, but it didn't make things any easier. I had the answers, but they felt like more of a burden than a relief. Jared's confession wasn't just a blow to the gut. It was the shattering of everything I thought I understood about my family. Camille and her husband Todd. This wasn't just about money. It was a betrayal that ran deeper than I could have ever imagined. They had used my son, my flesh and blood, to secure their future, to steal what rightfully belonged to Jared and me. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen, my head spinning with everything Jared had said. I tried to focus. I had to. But as I looked at Camille, who was busy preparing breakfast, my hands trembled. Her back was to me. But I could feel the weight of the deception hanging in the air. It felt suffocating. She turned, her eyes meeting mine. Her smile was fake. I could see it in the way she tilted her head, the slight tremor in her hand as she reached for the coffee. "Good morning," she said, her voice too sweet, too casual. I didn't respond at first. I couldn't. What could I say? After everything, how was I supposed to face her? Instead, I pulled out the folder. The receipts, the emails, the records of the payments to Father Dominic. The pictures of Jared, half mad, twitching in fear during his so-called sessions. Camille's face paled as I laid everything on the table between us. "You knew," I said, my voice sharp. "You knew this whole thing was a scam, and you let it happen." Her eyes flickered to the documents, and then back to me. For a moment I saw something like regret in her gaze, but it was gone as quickly as it came. "Reid, I didn't have a choice," she said, her voice trembling, though not with fear, more like guilt. "Todd needed it. We needed it. The money from the inheritance. It was all falling apart. You don't understand." "I dunna understand." I interrupted. "You used our son, my son, for this? For money? You took advantage of him when he was at his most vulnerable, and now you set trying to justify it?" Camille's lips quivered as she struggled to speak. She couldn't even meet my eyes. "It was supposed to be temporary, Reid," she whispered, barely audible. "Just enough to get us through until things got better. But then the money kept flowing, and the healer kept making promises. Promises, that was what she called it, promises." I couldn't believe it. Camille had sold us out. She'd sold our family out. Our son's suffering had become nothing more than a pawn in her game. I felt the weight of my anger building, but there was something else, too. A creeping sense of betrayal that cut deeper than I could have ever imagined. I couldn't let this go. Not now. Not after everything. "Where's Todd?" I asked. My voice quiet, dangerous. He sets at work," she said quickly. "Reid, please, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. It just got out of control. Out of control." That's what she called it. This wasn't some accident. This was a calculated move, one they had both planned together. I grabbed my coat and turned toward the door. "I'm going to find him," I said, barely above a whisper. "I'm going to make sure you both pay for this." As I drove toward Todd's office, I couldn't stop the flood of thoughts rushing through my mind. Camille's confession wasn't enough. I still had no idea how deep the rabbit hole went. How long had this been going on? How many other lies had they told? And most of all, how much was I willing to lose to fix this? I pulled up to his office, parked, and stepped out, my feet heavy on the pavement. I knew what I was walking into, but I wasn't sure I was prepared for what I might find. Todd wasn't just a part of this, he was the one who'd been pulling the strings, the real mastermind behind the whole thing. I walked into the building, my mind clear, my heart still thundering. The receptionist barely looked up as I approached, but when I asked to see Todd, she nodded. A few moments later, Todd was standing in front of me, looking as calm and collected as ever. His suit was sharp, his demeanor cool, but I could see the flicker of recognition in his eyes. He knew why I was there. "Reid," Todd said, his voice smooth. "What a surprise, didn't expect to see you." "I'm here to talk about Jared," I said, my voice cold. Todd's smile faltered, just for a second. Then he straightened up, his eyes narrowing slightly. Sure you are," he said, "but I don't think there's much to talk about. Your son is unstable. You know that, don't you? He's been a liability to you, to everyone." "Don't you dare talk about him like that," I growled. "You been using him. You been using my family to get what you wanted." Todd Dist's face hardened. He didn't even flinch. "I don't know what you think you know, but you are wrong. This was for all of us, for our future." I stepped closer, anger rising like a fire in my chest. "No, Todd, this was for you, for your selfish greed." "And you think I still just let you tear everything down?" he said, his voice a low growl. You don't get to decide what happens now. I already won, but I wasn't done. I wasn't going to let him win. As the confrontation grew more heated, I felt something shift inside of me. I wasn't just angry. I was done. Done with their lies. Done with their manipulation. And I was ready to end it. No more secrets. No more games. The truth would be exposed. The next move was mine. And this time I wasn't going to let anyone stand in my way. The following days were a blur. My mind raced, fueled by anger, betrayal, and the need to expose the truth. But as the weight of what Jared had confessed settled deeper into my bones, it became clear that I was standing at the crossroads of redemption and ruin. Camille and Todd had twisted my family's life into a dark, deceptive web, and I was about to pull at the strings. But there was something still hanging over me. My son's trust. The truth was out. But Jared hadn't yet fully understood the depth of the manipulation. I wasn't just confronting a betrayal from my ex-wife or Todd. I was confronting the broken relationship I had with my son. I spent the next few nights investigating, digging through records, following up on leads, and securing concrete evidence. It wasn't easy. Camille had been careful, setting up layers of deception, making sure there was no direct link between her and the scam. But there was one thing she overlooked: me. I had years of training in the CIA. I knew how to pull apart lies, how to find the one small crack in a wall that would bring the whole thing down. And that's when I found it, an email. It was buried deep in the spam folder of Camille Sepp's old account. I couldn't believe my eyes when I opened it. The email was from Father Dominic, dated a week before I arrived back in Charleston. The subject line: Jared Sepp's exorcism, final payment. The contents of the email were chilling. It wasn't just a payment request, it was a blueprint for the entire content. The email detailed how they would keep Jared's possession going, all while raking in money. The best part? It included Jared's name in the subject line, as though he were nothing more than an object in a twisted plan to secure their inheritance. I printed it out, feeling my heart race. I had it, the smoking gun. But even as I stared at the email, a part of me hesitated. I'd been so focused on exposing the truth, I'd almost forgotten what this would mean for my son. Would he ever look at me the same way again? Would he ever forgive me for letting this happen? The guilt gnawed at me, but I pushed it aside. The truth had to come out. That night, I sat with Jared in the same room where he had confessed to me days before. He looked different now, less jittery, more focused. But there was still that sadness in his eyes. I could feel the weight of his distrust, a silence that hung between us like an invisible wall. Jared, I said softly, my voice shaky. I have the proof. I know what they did to you. His eyes widened, but he didn't speak. I slid the printout across the table. Read it. Jared took the paper, his hands shaking slightly as he scanned it. I could see the shock on his face, the realization that it was all true, the guilt, the confusion, everything that had been hanging over him. And I didn't know, he whispered, his voice breaking. I thought they were helping me. I thought it was real. I could see the tears forming in his eyes, and I wanted to reach out to him, but something stopped me. This wasn't just about him finding out the truth. This was about him finding it in his own time. It wasn't that your fault, I said gently. They manipulated you. They used you. And now we are going to make sure they pay for it. Jared looked up at me, his expression a mix of relief and sorrow. I saw the flicker of hope in his eyes for the first time in weeks. Maybe there was still a chance for us, but that was a thought I couldn't entertain for too long. There was still work to do. The next step was simple. Expose them, all of them. I walked out of the house that night with one goal in mind: to make sure Camille and Todd would never hurt my family again. I reached for my phone, and within seconds, I had made the call. Miller, it's Reid. I need you to help me get them. I have the proof. I want to take them down. You got it, Miller responded. I'll start making calls. This ends now. I hung up, a wave of relief flooding over me. The pieces were finally coming together, but there was no turning back. Once I went to the authorities, once I exposed the scam, my life, Jared's life, would be changed forever. But I had no choice. There was no other way. I didn't know what the future held, but at that moment I felt something I hadn't felt in years. A sense of control. For the first time, I wasn't chasing a ghost. I wasn't reacting to someone else's game. This was mine. In the days that followed, the investigation moved quickly. The legal teams went into overdrive. Miller's connections pulled strings that I couldn't have dreamed of reaching. I didn't have to do anything anymore. Everything was falling into place. But as much as the progress in the case brought me satisfaction, it also brought another realization. Even if Camille and Todd were convicted, even if everything was exposed, the damage had already been done. The cost of all this wasn't just financial, it was emotional. Jared and I would never be the same. We couldn't go back to what we once were. I knew then that revenge, justice, whatever you called it, couldn't fix everything. It couldn't undo the pain of betrayal, the emotional scars of a family torn apart. But it was a start, and for the first time in a long time it felt like the right one. The morning of the confrontation felt like stepping into a storm. I had the evidence. I had the truth. And yet, standing in front of the door to Camille's house, I couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty that gripped me. This wasn't just about exposing them anymore. This was about the fallout, the unraveling of a family, the destruction of everything I thought we were. But I had no choice. I knocked. It wasn't the polite knock I would have used in the past, when I was trying to make peace, to avoid conflict. No, this time the knock was loud, deliberate. The kind of knock that signals you've been backed into a corner, that you're not leaving until you get what you came for. Camille opened the door. The look in her eyes was a mix of surprise and fear. She knew. "Reid," she said, her voice trembling. "What are you doing here?" I didn't say a word. I stepped past her, my eyes scanning the room. Todd was nowhere to be seen. "Where's Todd?" I asked, my voice low but steady. Camille hesitated, a flicker of panic crossing her face. Then, without saying a word, she pointed to the back of the house. I didn't wait for her to say anything more. I walked straight through, my mind set on one thing: getting the truth out in the open. Todd was in the study, sitting behind a large oak desk, looking as calm as ever, as if nothing in the world could rattle him. But that sets where he was wrong. "Reid, what the hell is this?" he asked, standing up quickly as he saw me approach. I didn't waste time on pleasantries. I threw the folder down onto the desk, the papers scattering in all directions. The email, the receipts, the bank transfers, all the evidence I had gathered over the last few days. The proof that their entire scam had been built on lies. "This," I said, pointing at the documents, "is how you ruined my family." Todd looked down at the papers, then up at me. For a moment I saw the calm facade crack, the slight twitch in his eye, the way his jaw clenched. But it was brief. He recovered quickly. "You don't know what you said or talking about," Todd said, his voice defensive. "We were helping Jared, you weren't centered here. You left." I could feel my anger bubbling up, but I kept my voice controlled. "Helping him? You used him. You used my son to get what you wanted, to get your hands on the family estate." Todd's face turned red. "You don't Wade know the first thing about what I've been through," he spat. "You don't Wade know how hard it's been to keep everything together. This was the only way." "The only way?" I repeated. "You put him through hell for this? You let him suffer. And for what? A house? Money?" He stood up now, slamming his fist on the desk. "You think you send the only one who suffered? You think I wanted to do this? I had no choice. Camille and I—" "Enough," I said, cutting him off. "You never had a choice. You always have a choice. You chose to betray my son. You chose to destroy everything." For a brief moment, I saw something in Todd's eyes. Fear, not the fear of getting caught, but the fear of losing control, the fear that everything was coming to an end. And then, as quickly as it came, that fear disappeared. He straightened his back, his eyes narrowing. "You think you can just walk in here and destroy everything I worked for?" I felt the room close in around me, the walls pressing in. "I'm not here to destroy anything," I said quietly. I said I'm here to make sure you pay for what you did. All of it. To Jared, to Camille, to me. Todd's expression faltered for a second, but then he regained his composure. You still regret this, he said, his voice almost a whisper. You don't still know what you still were getting into. But I wasn't afraid. I was done being afraid. I'd spent too many years chasing shadows, pretending I didn't care. I'd made mistakes too many to count. But this time I wasn't walking away. This time I was standing my ground. It's set's already over, Todd, I said, my voice steady, final. You don't set get to hide anymore. I turned to Camille, who had quietly entered the room behind me. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. She said nothing, just looked at the floor. I looked at both of them, standing there knowing that everything had changed. The family I once knew, the one I fought for, the one I wanted to protect, was no more. I couldn't save it, not anymore. But I could make sure they paid for what they did. The weight of the confrontation lingered in the air long after I left the house. As I walked away, I couldn't help but feel the finality of it all. It wasn't just the end of a marriage or a family. It was the end of an era of trust, of loyalty, of everything I thought we had built. But that was the thing about betrayal. Once it's been exposed, once the truth is out, there's no going back. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was losing. I felt like I was winning. The courtroom was cold. I don't know what I expected, but it certainly wasn't the numbness I felt when I walked in. The heavy silence. The low murmur of the spectators in the gallery. The weight of the situation pressing down on me like 1,000 bricks. I had prepared myself for this moment, but as I sat down in that chair, the reality of what was about to happen hit me like a sledgehammer. It wasn't just about legal action anymore. It wasn't even about revenge. It was about justice. About making sure Camille and Todd faced the consequences for what they had done, for how they used my son, my flesh and blood, for their selfish gain. But there was something else, too. Something I hadn't quite realized until that moment. The victory, if it came, would be hollow. Nothing would bring back the years of trust that had been broken. Nothing would heal the wounds of betrayal. But that didn't matter now. What mattered was making sure they paid for the damage they caused. The defense team arrived first. Todd, ever the arrogant one, walked in with a cocky smile plastered on his face. Camille was beside him, but I could see the way she avoided looking at me, the guilt weighing heavy on her. Their lawyer, a slick professional, gave them both a reassuring pat on the back. They believed this was just another game, a game they could win with the right words, the right spin. But they didn't know what I had. The trial started, and everything became a blur of legal jargon. The defense painted a picture of Jared as an unstable young man, someone who was emotionally vulnerable and prone to delusions. They called their experts psychologists who had never met my son, but were more than happy to suggest that the entire possession story was nothing more than a symptom of his mental health struggles. But what they didn't count on was the truth I had. I'd spent the last few weeks meticulously gathering evidence, financial records, the email chain between Camille and Father Dominic, the bank transfers. And most damning of all, I had the truth serum confession. It was a weapon, a powerful one, and I wasn't about to let it go to waste. I stood up when it was my turn to speak. The air in the room shifted. I could feel their eyes on me. The judge, the jury, Camille and Todd, sitting across the aisle from me, were suddenly silent, watching me with wariness I hadn't seen in them before. I opened my file and started with the most undeniable evidence, the receipts. I laid out each one, detailing the amounts paid to Father Dominic, the fraudulent exorcism services they had used to manipulate me and Jared. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about the manipulation, the lies. This wasn't set just about money, I said, my voice steady. It was about control. It was about using my son, using his suffering for your own benefit. You knew what you were doing, and you did it anyway. I let the words hang in the air for a moment. Then I pulled out the final piece, the email. The one Camille had thought was hidden away forever. I watched her face pale as I placed it on the table. I could hear a soft gasp from the gallery. The jury was leaning forward, the weight of the moment sinking in. This email, I continued, proves that this wasn't simply an accident. This was planned. This was orchestrated. Camille and Todd, you were both in on it. You used my son to get what you wanted, and now you have to answer for it. The defense attorney tried to interrupt, but the judge silenced him with a wave of his hand. The room was dead silent now, the gravity of the situation hanging over everyone. Camille's face was a study in shame. I could see the tears welling in her eyes, but they didn't move me. She'd chosen this path. She had made her bed, and now she was lying in it. Todd, on the other hand, remained stoic. He wasn't the type to show weakness, and I knew he was planning his next move. But I had him. I had the truth. And there was nowhere left to hide. Your Honor, I said, turning to the judge, I sup not asking for vengeance. I sup asking for justice. My son deserves that. I deserve that. The judge nodded, his eyes scanning the room. The defense had no real case. They had nothing to refute the hard evidence I presented. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just about my son's suffering anymore. This was about setting things right, about taking back what had been stolen from us, even if it meant destroying what was left of my family in the process. The verdict came down hours later, but it felt like days had passed. The courtroom remained silent as the judge read the decision. Camille and Todd were guilty of fraud, coercion, and emotional abuse. Their sentences were longer than I had expected, but just enough for me to feel that, finally, justice had been served. I wasn't satisfied, though. The trial had been a battle, but the real war was over. Todd and Camille would face the legal consequences. But my family, it was too far gone. There was no coming back from this. As I left the courtroom, I saw Jared waiting outside. His eyes were red from crying, but there was a sense of relief in his posture. He wasn't free yet, he had a long way to go, but for the first time in weeks, I saw a flicker of hope in him. I walked over to him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "It's over, son," I said softly. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I might be able to protect him. Maybe not from the past, but from the future. The silence at the family table felt suffocating. I had won. The trial was over. Camille and Todd were convicted, their lives torn apart by the consequences of their greed and manipulation. I should have felt relief, but as I sat across from Jared at that table, I felt nothing but emptiness. Jared didn't look like the son I once knew. There was no anger in his eyes, no bitterness. Instead, there was just a haunting sadness, a resignation that cut deeper than anything else. The air between us was thick, but neither of us knew how to break it. The last time we sat like this, before all of this happened, we were a family. The warmth of shared meals, the jokes, the comfort of knowing we were in this together. Now everything had changed. The pieces of our shattered family were scattered, and the foundation we built together was cracked beyond repair. I could feel the weight of his gaze on me as he stared down at his plate, picking at the food in front of him. He hadn't touched it. Not really. The food was just something to keep his hands busy, something to distract him from the things neither of us wanted to talk about. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. What was there left to say? What could I offer him now after everything? After I had let it all get this far? Jared Sip's voice finally broke the silence, low and hesitant. I exhaled, trying to find the right words, but they weren't there. What could I say? That I was sorry? That I'd do anything to take back the past few months? To fix everything? That I hadn't meant for any of this to happen? The words felt hollow, empty. "You don't have to say anything," I said, my voice strained. I want you to know that I sip in here for you, always." Jared didn't respond. He just nodded slowly, the emotion in his eyes unreadable. I could see the effort it took for him to hold it together, to not break down in front of me. I looked away, unable to meet his eyes any longer. The guilt, the regret, it was too much to bear. Every part of me felt like a failure. I hadn't been there for him when he needed me. I hadn't protected him from Camille and Todd. I hadn't seen the signs. I hadn't been the father I should have been. I thought of all the years I spent chasing work, chasing cases, chasing anything but the people who mattered most. I'd neglected Jared, put my career before him, and it had cost me. We had lost each other somewhere along the way, and now, no matter how hard I tried, I didn't know how to get him back. The room felt colder, the distance between us widening with every passing second. There was a tension in the air, thick and suffocating, and I knew neither of us could escape it. Jared cleared his throat, but his voice was barely audible when he spoke. Do you think we can ever fix this? I mean, everything that Seps happened. The question hit me like a punch to the gut. Can we fix this? Could we ever go back to what we had? Could we ever rebuild the trust, the bond we once shared? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to believe that we could, but I knew deep down that things would never be the same. I don't set no, son, I replied, my voice barely a whisper. I wish I could tell you that we could, but I don't set no. The truth stung, but it was the truth. Jared looked at me for a moment longer, and I could see the pain in his eyes, but also the understanding. He didn't expect everything to be fixed overnight. He knew that as much as I did, but the question still lingered in the air: could we find our way back to each other? We sat in silence for a long time. After that, neither of us moving, neither of us speaking. The weight of our broken family pressed down on us, heavy and unrelenting. I could feel the years of distance between us, the years of mistakes, the missed opportunities, the times I failed him. And yet, despite everything, I still wanted to try. I still wanted to make things right. But I couldn't do it alone. I couldn't fix this by myself. I'm sorry, I finally said, my voice thick with emotion. I should sep been there for you. I should sep done more. Jared didn't set respond at first, but after a long pause he nodded. I know. I know you didn't set mean for any of this to happen. The words weren't a cure. They weren't magic. But they were the beginning, a small glimmer of hope in the darkness that surrounded us. We had a long road ahead of us, a road filled with pain, regret, and healing. But for the first time in a long time, I believed that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. Weeks had passed since the trial, but the weight of it all still felt fresh. The dust had settled in the courtroom, but at home, nothing had changed. The cracks in my family weren't just visible. They were deep, carving their way through the foundation of everything we'd built. The house felt emptier now, quieter. I could hear the echo of my footsteps as I walked from room to room, the silence pressing down on me like a physical thing. Jared and I were getting better at speaking to each other, but the distance between us remained. It was there in the way he avoided my gaze at times, in the way he flinched when I tried to show affection. It was as though every word we said had a weight to it, as though every gesture was a reminder of the brokenness that we couldn't escape. I tried to fix things. I did. I tried to talk to him about how we could move forward, how we could start over, but it wasn't that simple. There were so many things left unsaid, so many apologies that we didn't know how to give. I had failed him, and no matter how hard I tried to make up for it, I couldn't erase the damage I had done. And then there was Camille. She had been quiet since the trial, locked away in her own world of guilt and regret. I had received a few letters from her, some filled with apologies, some trying to justify her actions, but I had no interest in hearing her explanations anymore. She had made her choices. She had been a part of the scam, a part of the betrayal. But even now, I couldn't help but wonder if she had really understood what she had done. She had lost so much too, her freedom, her dignity, her relationship with Jared. But in the end, it was never enough for her to fully grasp the consequences of her choices. Jared had kept his distance from her, and I didn't blame him. He hadn't spoken to her since the trial. He didn't want to, and I wasn't sure if he ever would. The pain ran too deep. The trust had been broken beyond repair. Dad, Jared said one night, his voice breaking the silence as we sat in the living room. It was the first time he's spoken to me like this in weeks. I don't pustet know what to do. I am lost. I turned to him, my heart aching. For so long, I had tried to protect him from the world, tried to shield him from the things that could break him, but I had failed. Now, I had to figure out how to help him heal, if it was even possible. It's is going to take time, I said, my voice quiet but firm. You don't have to have all the answers right now. We still get through this, one day at a time. Jared nodded, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. He didn't believe me, not yet, and I couldn't blame him. Camille's letters kept coming, but they were always the same. She was sorry. She regretted what she had done. but nothing she said could ever change the truth. Nothing could erase the way she had manipulated me, the way she had used our son for her own gain. I couldn't keep reading them. I couldn't let her words pull me back into the past. I made the decision to cut her out of my life for good. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. I wasn't going to be the one to save her, not after everything she had done. I wasn't sure what to do with the house. I couldn't bring myself to sell it, not yet. But every time I walked through the halls, I saw the ghosts of the past. I saw the life we used to have, the dinners, the laughter, the plans for the future. And now it was all gone. I didn't know what was next for me, for Jared, for this broken family. I could try to rebuild, but I wasn't sure it was possible. Maybe time would heal some wounds, but some things would never be the same. The only thing I could do now was keep moving forward, keep fighting, even when it felt like the fight was over. The days stretched on, but the burden of the past never seemed to lighten. The weight of what had happened hung over me like a cloud, dark and suffocating. Every step I took, I felt like I was dragging it with me. I couldn't outrun it, but I wasn't giving up. Not on Jared, not on myself. We were both broken, but we were still here. And that was something, wasn't it? Jared and I had a long road ahead of us, a road full of pain and regret. But maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance to fix things, to rebuild what had been lost, to find peace again. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I was ready to face it. It's strange, isn't it? How time moves so quickly and yet feels like it's standing still. I've been living in the same house for months now, trying to figure out who I am after everything that's happened. The trial is over. The consequences have been meted out, but it doesn't feel like closure. There's no real finality. It's like I'm stuck in the middle of everything. The past won't let go, and the future feels uncertain. Jared's been coming around more often. We talk, but the conversations are short, strained. There are times when I catch him staring at the walls, lost in thought, and I know he's still carrying the weight of everything we've been through. He tries to act like he's okay, like he's moving on, but I know better. He's not okay. He's not even close. The guilt has become a constant companion for me, following me from room to room, always there, reminding me of my mistakes. I failed him, I failed my family. No amount of justice, no legal victory could erase that. But I keep trying. I keep trying to be there for Jared, to show him that I'm here even though I'm not sure how to fix any of it. I'm not sure if anything can be fixed anymore. Maybe I can't save him. Maybe I can't save us. But I can still be here, present in the ways that matter, even if it's not enough. I think back to those early days, before the divorce, before the lies, before the manipulation, when everything felt simple, when our family was whole. I can't help but wonder what went wrong. Was it my fault? Was it Camille's? Or was it just life, throwing curveballs at us that we weren't ready for? We all played our parts in the unraveling. I ran away from responsibility, from my family, for too long. I hid behind my career. I thought the world would be better if I kept moving, kept working, kept pushing forward. But all that did was create distance. I thought I could outrun the pain. I thought I could outrun the guilt. But it catches up with you, eventually. And now, here we are, broken, but still alive, still fighting. The hardest part of all this has been coming to terms with the fact that I can't change the past. No matter how many times I replay the events in my mind, no matter how many times I think about what I could have done differently, it doesn't matter. The past is gone. I can't bring it back, but I can move forward. And that's what I'm trying to do, one step at a time. Jared's still a mystery to me, even after everything we've been through. I know he's hurt, that he's angry, that he's confused. I know he wants to forgive me, but he doesn't know how. And honestly, I don't know how to forgive myself, either. I don't know if I ever will. But I'm not going to give up on him. I'm not going to give up on us. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm going to keep trying. I keep telling myself that time heals all wounds, but I've learned the hard way that that's not true. Time doesn't heal anything. It just allows you to live with the scars. I don't know if Jared and I will ever be the same. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll find a new way to relate, a new way to build trust. But it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of work. And even then, I'm not sure it will ever be enough. But I have to try. Because if I don't, what's left? What's left of a father who's too afraid to face his own mistakes? What's left of a son who's been betrayed by the people who should have loved him the most? Nothing. And that's not something I Isabel willing to accept. I keep replaying that night in the courtroom. The moment when the verdict was read. When I thought it would feel like victory, it didn't. It didn't feel like anything. Not the relief I expected, not the satisfaction of seeing Camille and Todd face the consequences of their actions. All I felt was a deep, gnawing emptiness. Maybe justice isn't about winning. Maybe it's about finding peace with the choices you've made and the choices others have made for you. I don't know if I'll ever get that peace, but I know I'm trying to find it. It's funny how life works sometimes. How it takes everything from you, strips you down to the bones. And then just when you think you've lost it all, it forces you to look at yourself and ask, who are you now? I've spent the last few years wondering that, wondering what's left of me. What's left of the family I used to have? What's left of the man I thought I was? The trial is over. Camille and Todd are paying the price for what they did. Their lives are in ruins, and mine, well, mine is still broken. But I'm here and I'm still fighting. I thought that when it was all over, when they were convicted, and the truth came out, I'd feel something. Maybe relief, maybe closure, maybe some kind of peace. But that's the irony of it all, isn't it? You fight for justice, you fight for the truth. And when you finally get it, it doesn't fix anything. Jared and I have slowly started to rebuild our relationship, but it's not easy. It's like trying to put together a puzzle with missing pieces. Some days it feels like we're getting somewhere. Other days it feels like we're just two strangers trying to figure out how we got here. We've been talking more though. Slowly, carefully. I'm trying to be patient with him, to let him find his own way back to me. I can see the hurt in his eyes. I know I can't erase the past, but I'm trying to show him that I'm still here, that I'll never give up on him. But some scars are too deep to heal quickly. It's going to take time. Years, maybe. And I don't know if we'll ever truly be the same again. The family estate is gone. The house I once called home, the place where so many memories were made, has been sold. It feels surreal, walking past the empty rooms. The place that once held the promise of our future now feels like a ghost. It's a symbol of everything I've lost. The life I thought I had, the family I thought I could protect. But in a way, selling the house was a step forward. I couldn't hold on to the past any longer. It was time to let it go. The money from the sale is gone too. It's all part of the process. Part of the price I've paid for the mistakes I've made. I thought the house would be the last thing I'd have to let go of. But it turns out that there's more to forgive, more to rebuild. I ran into Camille a few months later. She's not the same woman I once knew. She's a shell of herself, broken by the consequences of her choices. She's serving her sentence now, but I can't bring myself to feel anything for her. Not anymore. We had a brief conversation, but it didn't last long. She tried to apologize, tried to justify everything she did, but I didn't care. Her words didn't matter. I didn't Ested want to hurt you, Reid, she said, her voice trembling. I was just trying to survive. I looked at her. Really looked at her for the first time in a long while, and I realized something. She wasn't the person I used to know. She wasn't even the same woman I loved. It's too late for apologies, I said, my voice flat. You made your choices. You have to live with them now. That was the last time I saw her. It's been years now, and Jared and I are still working through the mess. Things aren't perfect. They may never be perfect. But we're trying. That's what matters. We're trying to build something from the ashes. I still have days when I question everything. When I wonder if I'm a good father, or if I'm just a man who's spent too much time running from his past. But one thing's for sure. I'm not running anymore. I'm facing what's left of my life. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like maybe there's hope. I think about all that's happened, the twists and turns, the lies, the betrayals, and in the end, I realize something. I don't need the family estate. I don't need the house. I need this chance at redemption, this chance to make things right. I thought I could save everyone. I thought I could fix everything, but I couldn't. In the end, I had to save myself. And that's the final irony, isn't it? After everything, After all the pain and the loss, the only thing I had left to save was me. Years have passed since that trial, since everything was laid bare for the world to see. Camille's letters stopped coming. Todd disappeared from my life, as he had always planned to do. I'd buried the past, the memories of betrayal and lies, and I thought I was moving on, but the truth is, you can never completely outrun your history. It's always there, lurking in the corners of your mind, reminding you of who you were and what you've lost. Jared and I have worked hard to rebuild. It hasn't been easy. There are days when it feels like nothing has changed. And then there are days when we make progress, even if it's small. We still have our moments of silence, the times when neither of us knows what to say or how to say it. But we've learned to sit in the discomfort, to live with the mistakes we've both made. And sometimes when I catch him laughing at something on his phone, or when we talk about his future without the weight of my past decisions hanging over him, I feel like maybe we're starting to heal, slowly. But we're getting there. The family estate, the house that held all the memories, is long gone. I thought that selling it would be the end of my ties to that past, but in a way it was just the beginning of something new. It was the final act of severing ties to the old life. I haven't looked back. I don't want to. There's nothing left there for me. No comfort, no resolution, just ghosts of a time that no longer fits who I am today. The money from the sale was put into a trust for Jared. I wanted him to have something, something I could give him after everything that was taken from him, after everything I failed to protect him from. It's not enough. It'll never be enough. But it's a start. Camille and Todd. Their fates are sealed. Camille, now serving a reduced sentence, has tried to contact me a few times. I haven't answered. There's nothing left to say to her. The woman I once knew is gone, replaced by someone I can no longer recognize. She isn't the person I loved. She's not even the person I tried to save. And the truth is, I don't want to try anymore. I keep my distance from her letters, her attempts at reaching out. I've seen enough. She's remorseful. But remorse doesn't undo the damage. Her regrets are empty, just like her promises. There's nothing left for me to forgive. Nothing left for her to take. Her betrayal was her own, and now she must live with the consequences. I've moved on. What Camille and Todd did to us isn't something I'll forget, but it's something I'll live with. I can't change it. I can't erase the hurt. I can't fix what's broken. But I can choose how I move forward. I can choose to be a better father. I can choose to give Jared the love he needs, even if it's imperfect, even if it's too late. It's a slow process, this healing, but every day feels like a new beginning. I no longer feel the same rage that once consumed me, the anger that clouded my vision and made me see everything in black and white. Now there's only the gray, the uncertainty, but there's also peace, little by little. Jared and I have started talking about the future. He's planning to go to college, maybe even leave Charleston. He wants to get out, to find a life of his own, and I'm doing my best to support him in that. It's strange, letting go of the boy who once needed me, but it's also the right thing. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of who he's becoming. I can't say I've found complete redemption. There's no such thing. You don't get a clean slate after everything we've been through. The scars are still there inside and out. But I've learned something along the way. I've learned that redemption isn't about fixing everything. It's about accepting what you can't change and choosing to live with it. Choosing to do better even when it's hard. Choosing to move forward even when it feels like you're stuck. I've made peace with who I am now. I've made peace with my mistakes. The past is behind me. What's ahead, I don't know. But for the first time, I'm not afraid to face it. I'm not afraid of what's to come. I'm ready for whatever happens next. Jared and I still have a long road ahead of us. We're not there yet, not by a long shot, but we're making our way, step by step, and I'm holding on to the hope that someday we'll find the way back to each other. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow, or next year, or 10 years from now, but I'll keep trying. I'll keep being there for him the way I should have been all along. I thought I could save everyone. I thought I could fix everything. But in the end, I had to save myself. And maybe that's the hardest lesson of all. But it's also the most important.